Hello. I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Mr. Quarter. He represents 1/4. He's normally a pretty happy guy. In fact, he likes to look out for his friends. What he likes to do is cut everything into 1/4 so that there's always plenty to share. However, he's a little upset right now. He's kind of frustrated because there's always a misunderstanding. Now, what has Mr. Quarter so upset now is his cousin, Mr. Quarter. They share the same name, and that's because they've both been named after their great grandpappy, the great Latin Quartarius, which means 1/4. Now, with that, because Mr. Quarter is 1/4 and the other Mr. Quarter represents 25 cents, people often get them confused and think that's just because if something is quartered, it automatically means 25. So Mr. 1/4 quarter is getting frustrated and wants people to know there is a difference. One of the biggest area where people confuse the two is on the clock. We often use the term "I'll see you quarter after" or "a quarter till," and it does not mean 25 after or 25 till. As you can see, when you quarter a clock is because a clock isn't starting with 100 like a dollar. So a clock is starting with 60 minutes. So when you divide that 60 minutes into a quarter, you see it is indeed not 25 minutes, but it's 15. So that is where you have to keep in mind a quarter does not equal the same as the coin quarter, which is 25. And you can see the problem this would make if you do not understand your clock. Because if you were to meet someone quarter after and you show 25 minutes after, wow, you are really late for your date. But if they say, hey, see you at quarter till, you're going to be early. Another area that this is going to cause you a problem if you get these two mixed up is when you're cooking. Often we add a quarter of a cup or a quarter of a teaspoon or tablespoon to things. And if we immediately just try to substitute that with a 25, what would your cake be like if you were supposed to add a quarter of a cup of lemon juice and instead you added 25 ounces? Ooh, very sour. Or someone says, hey, bake this for a quarter of an hour. Oh, and you do it for 25 minutes, it could be burnt. If you are driving or you hear your parents driving and they're saying, we have a quarter of a tank. Well, do we know what that number is? No, because some tanks carry different gallons. But we know when we see a quarter of a tank, hey, it's time to start looking for a gas station. So there's many common uses of the word quarter. Quarter of a year, quarter of a century, quarter of a cup, quarter of an inch, quarter of a yard. So make sure you do not mix that a quarter means 1/4 and make Mr. Quarter very happy. And don't confuse him with his cousin, quarter. Can you think of some other usage for the word quarter? So the two cousins decided they would get along. In fact, Mr. 1/4 quarter decided Mr. Coin quarter could help everyone remember that 1/4 in percentage is 25%. Don't forget the coin quarter is 1/4 of a dollar, which is 100 cents. So 1/4 of 100 is 25. 1/4 in percentage is 25%. So they decided to use each other to help encourage everyone, and they were happy. So let's look at the math on this. So please note that when we are quartering something, we are doing it in 1/4. Now, to divide something into 1/4, we are going to divide by 4. Please note, we can do this because of the simple 1 at top. When this gets to 2/4, 3/5, we have a little more math to do, but we'll get to that later. So if you want to know the percentage of something, you are going to multiply by the decimal 0.25. So for example, if we wanted to know a quarter of a pound, we know first of all a pound is 16 ounces. So we divide by 4. 4 goes into 16 4 times. Pretty easy. You can even do that in your head. But you could do it this way. Multiply it by 0.25 and you also get the same answer. Can you think of a couple of other ways to come up with the answer 4? I think you can. Now, let's look at a bigger number, such as the mile. So if we wanted to know a quarter of the mile in feet, we have a much bigger number. It's 5,280. Again, we take the same steps. 4 is used to divide, and we come up with 1,320. That's how many feet we would have to run. Or we can multiply by our 0.25. And again, we come up with the same answer. I still think there might be a couple more ways you could still come with the same answer. So think about that and think about your Mr. 1/4. Can you draw me a 1/4? Could you do better than mine? I kind of think you can. Have fun with that and don't ever forget, just because we quarter something doesn't mean it's 25.